Hey, what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and it's a little late at night, but I got a little bit of energy jumping out of bed because I was reading the comments of a recent video that I did pretty decently, for my small channel, where a lot of people were championing the words I said. They're like, yeah, man, these underrated MMO. Heck yeah, I totally agree. More people should play them. Everything you said is right, and here's also more what I could add to it. Hopefully more people play the game with me. Yeah, I love that, but also more curious people who are interested in these games or similar titles. A lot of people are just excited. There's an energy buzzing around this these games I was talking about, this video that I did of the best and underrated MMOs. Just everyone was coming together, friends and family and keyboard warriors alike, all joining hands, just wanting to play games together and go a little bit deeper together. So I thought that was pretty neat, and I wanted to kind of elaborate on what actually makes an MMO underrated and why the relationship between those two words is unique versus like what makes any game underrated, what makes anything underrated? Or are you trying to say that all of MMOs are underrated? Yes, actually, but no, we have so much more to go, but I'm not going to kick the bucket around too much. I really want to get right into it. I'm basically going to say that what makes any MMO underrated is kind of your schema going into the game. It's going to be the trailers you've watched. It's going to all boil down to what your friends said about the game, or maybe you watched a streamer play, or maybe a video like mine on YouTube, though mine was specifically about underrated mechanics, so maybe not that particular video, but sometimes you see a list video or something like that, and you see an MMO and you're like, oh, that looks neat. So immediately when you go into an MMO, you're biased, not just to like or enjoy the MMO, but also you have these expectations of what it could be like. And even the most linear theme park MMO that just kind of shovels, content down your throat actually has a surprising amount of player agency and a sort of meta organicness to the whole experience that, I don't know, maybe you could even entirely miss out on, or just kind of you'll lose the point of really the whole genre even, or at least that specific game, when you go into a game with certain expectations. Sometimes even playing wrong is the right way to play games. I know a lot of people who solo MMOs specifically because it's more challenging and awkward, and also makes you stand out inside of the very visible space of a massively multiplayer game. I mean, if someone sees you taking down a world boss alone, you're kind of awesome, So that's what I used to do in Guild Wars 2, but also, yeah, just to talk about Guild Wars 2, that was a game that I mentioned in an underrated list, and I talk about all the time as it's underrated. And the mechanic I talked about most was just the action combat, something that so many people, maybe almost everyone, really just kind of misses the point of when they talk about these games. And we'll discuss why that is, but basically, yeah, because people now realize from the video that, oh, it has action targeting, it's a more action-based game. It doesn't just look fast-paced, it actually has skill shots, it actually has timing, it actually has a lot of nuance with its action combat. Didn't realize it because of the camera view or just, general gameplay, but now that somebody said it, oh, I'm interested in this game, I want to give it a shot. Or maybe you played it, and this is the big deal, you played it and you tried it, and because of the leveling experience, it being rather repetitious or easy, or maybe the class that you picked, or maybe you never dove into the, the menus and saw that there's an action targeting, setting, all these preconceptions and schema that you had going into this game, you had no idea that Guild Wars 2 could be an action-based game. Maybe you didn't even make it to the first dungeon, right? And so you just didn't expect that. Or maybe you did. You made it all the way to endgame, but the way you played, because Guild Wars 2, you can actually just level through, I don't know, jumping around. You could do jumping puzzles. You could just do the living world stuff. Maybe you just had certain expectations going into the game, and it caused you to play a certain way. And that's what I want to talk about. Why do MMOs get underrated? Because of the way MMOs promote themselves, and because of the communities that tend to gravitate towards these type of games. I think a very obvious example is another game that I talked about in my list video, Albion Online. Albion Online definitely promotes itself as a hardcore guild-focused PvP game, but in my video, I specifically mentioned that I am a solo player who plays for the PvE content, actually, and I enjoy the title despite the fact that people think it's a grind and it's meant to be played a certain way. Actually, it's much more sandbox than you would imagine, and there's so many things that you can do that really supplement a lone wolf-style gameplay that's really, to me, feels like it's a big world. It's like an MMO version of like the jungle from League of Legends, and I freaking love it for that aspect that nobody talks about, even though it really is something that everyone will encounter. It is a core fundamental part of the game, but people don't really champion that, talk about it, promote it, because I don't know, at first I thought maybe that's just a niche playstyle, maybe that is just my own personal perspective, but finally for a video I dropped that aspect. I was like, no, I don't think I really am biased. I mean, yeah, this is the way I'm playing games, but I genuinely think that this is something that could be critically acclaimed if people knew of it. I genuinely think that this is underrated, and I think it's something that is, I think it permeates actually the whole gameplay. I think it could, for the average player, make their gameplay experience, and so I did want to champion it. I wanted to shout it out, and the people who play these games, such as Albion Online, thanked me for it, and I think that the whole community can grow just a little bit more. I know I'm a small channel, that video is not going to be very big. Still, somebody will find the game and somebody will play it and somebody will have fun, and that's really what it's all about. But it all comes down to basically Albion Online specifically and other MMOs. They target a demographic which is pretty obviously hardcore PvP guild-based players. They want to jump in maybe with players of 5, a bunch of friends. They all make a guild or they join a big guild. They want to be part of a big company. They want to do the PvP, the hardcore ganking and stuff like that. So these type of players tend to make certain types of content, or they tend to talk about certain things. And obviously there's trailers that the game, pushes out that also pushes that agenda, and it's really good for these games. You target a demographic, you get those type of players, and you give them the content that they want, and then a little bit more. And that's why MMOs are underrated, because there's always a little bit more. These are supposed to be living, breathing worlds. You need room, to breathe in and to live in, and that's what they offer. They offer lots of different things, and there's little minute mechanics that I think a lot of people just overlook because they have, I guess, taken it as an advantage. But really, as much as I think these kind of players also downplay a lot of the downsides of these games, they don't often enough promote what would make the average gamer, really excited. So that's going to be for most games. Every game or every genre can hyper-target a demographic. But the problem with MMOs is your enjoyment of the MMO is completely biased and changed based on what your preconceptions. So let's say you have, again, Albion Online, which is known as a hardcore PvP game. You think that it's gonna just be full loot, it's gonna be a scary game, you're gonna waste your time and all this other stuff. That's actually not the reality of the gameplay loop. That's not really the flow of the game, and it's actually much more forgiving. It's not that big of a time investment, truly. There's a lot of fun, and it actually picks up really fast, unlike some other sandbox games. There's so much to this game that seems so counterintuitive to the trailers that you've seen, the gameplay that you've seen, and probably what people have talked about, just tragically. Because you are somebody who's just getting into the game, you are an average gamer, or you're somebody who jumps from game to game, or you are not particularly the hardcore PvP type of player, so you think, oh, this is, that type of game. So maybe you do give it a shot, though. Maybe you could be that type of player. Maybe you might be able to find something in this game that could be worth playing for you. You saw that there's farming or whatever. But the thing is you're already immediately biased towards that. So you get into the game and you have this conception of what you think it's going to be like. So what happens is even though you might be a little bit more open-minded, and you might be trying to play the game a little bit differently, you're still going to likely play the game in a certain way. You're going to think that maybe you've seen all the content as you're leveling. You just have this, basically the schema that says, okay, I've seen the game, I kind of get it, I'm going to go through the motions. But really, most MMOs, again, even the most theme park linear games, actually do give you a lot of player agency of how you can play. And if you just had a little bit more of an open mind, which is impossible basically in today's day and age, then you would have more fun. If you just sort of allowed yourself to walk into this world with wide-eyed wonder, you would be able to do so much more than you could ever imagine. Obviously, in a game like, Albion Online being a sandbox game, but again, that's even going to be for games like Final Fantasy XIV. So yeah, specifically MMOs are the most underrated genre. I mean, they're just kind of niche actually compared to like other titles, but not the most niche. But no, they're underrated specifically because their own player bases are so just demographically like homogenous, basically. Like they are hyper focused, and these communities build on each other, and it is awesome to find like-minded people all the time. But I think it's more interesting to see people who have different shapes and colors, and they offer something different that breathe true life into the cities that I'm playing in these games, these adventures I go on. I want to meet different types of characters in my MMORPG. That's just, that just makes me happy. New stories to be told from unique perspectives that I've never seen. And the thing is that actually all these games have that potential, which is why we play these games in the first place, which it's so funny that this is even a topic that I feel a need to talk about, because people who play these games, even though, these are niche titles that have hyper-specific demographics, they, just like I read in the comments, they want you to play these games. They want you to see what's really special about these games. But I think it takes someone like me or somebody like you who jumps from game to game. It takes sort of this more like worldly approach, this, I don't want to say unbiased, but this wider perspective to actually talk about these games. I do lots of list videos, so it's easy for me, but people who just, okay, you're an Albion Online player or you're a hardcore PvP sandbox player, you often sort of forget what just makes something generally kind of fun or interesting or engaging or even deep. And oftentimes, people get lost in like the real game, whatever, like the end game in these type of titles. But we need to talk about the whole leveling experience. We need to talk about the myriad of different activities that you can do in these games. And sometimes that is the full game for a lot of players. Actually, most players are what we would call casual players, and it's the casual players who actually find some really genuinely awesome gamification inside of just wandering around. It's just really cool things people can do. Like that's how you get like the fashion wars, and that's how you get people doing weird guild events like level 1 gnome races across Azeroth or something like that. This is the game. This is the world. This is MMOs. And sadly, for every MMO out there, because of the way that they are built, designed, promoted, and how they are built on top of each other, on top of the community, based on what the community says and wants, you tend to have a community that says and does one thing, developers that are, just kind of promoting and pushing that aspect as well, but there is still a full, whole open world. So yes, all MMOs are underrated, probably for lots of different reasons, but specifically, more than any other genre, because of the nature of it, it's almost impossible to rate it. And just to end cap, just to kind of be obvious proof, you can, have all these reviews that say like World of Warcraft is great, but which version of World of Warcraft at what specific time when the community was acting a very particular way, when was it actually fun? Is it still fun? And what if there's 0 players in World of Warcraft? Is it still a good game? Obviously, it all matters on what the community is kind of doing and how populated it is and all that stuff. And then what that community, the content that it's pushing out, because technically right now World of Warcraft actually is a kind of good game, but is it a good games as a service? Is it a good world to live in? Is it a good community? Is it a good MMO right now? No, all that's probably very, very debatable, and for a new player it's probably very difficult to get into the game now because of this weird meta aspects and the schema, and now your perspective going into the game, what you think it could be, what it is, instead of being able to just be free with wide-eyed wonder. That changes the game entirely. Your perspective, your schema going into it actually changes the decisions you make playing the game, and now you might more often overlook some really cool aspects of the game, which, even some of the worst MMOs do have some really cool things about them. If its community that played it actually championed those things and helped fostered its community, then maybe you would see it, but basically, it's kind of an impossibility. I think that just in the end, basically it comes down to developers having some sort of, schism between them and the player base, and what they really should be doing is creating a larger swath, a myriad of content trailers that don't just push, oh, new classes, or oh, this is the new feature that, it's going to make us a lot of money. We really do need more events and more just kind of for fun content to just show us the general gameplay or show us little nuanced aspects of the world that's apparently a living, breathing thing. And the community following suit, should actually be doing that kind of content as well. And in the best MMOs, for sure in the most popular MMOs, you do have some content here or there, but I'm sure you've heard this or that so often where basically people say, oh, you know, that's not the real game, there's an end game, there's a right and wrong way to play, or this game just does this is the kind of game that this is. But really, any MMO, it's about how you want to play it, it's how you want to experience it, and you, at the same time, you don't kind of have a choice on how you experience it, because these are community-driven games. So if the community wants to be full PvP and just kill every single noob, Darkfall, then yeah, that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen. Even though the game could be totally different, to be totally changed, and could be something so good and so special, it is based on the community. So it is sort of just this problem that exists that is going to take a sort of a big effort from developers to actually, I guess, change the behavior of the community and promote and foster a unique play style in the end. And this isn't just a problem with MMOs, it is a problem with especially esports and the way people matchmake and stuff like that. You can foster unique and specific communities, which MMOs do, but I think the problem is that they don't do a good enough job of making multiple communities, multiple ways of playing these games and promoting them and letting them be known. For instance, I bet a lot of people don't even know that Final Fantasy XIV has PvP. A lot of people don't. And that, you know, whether it's good or not, hey, people just don't know it exists. So there's that. So yeah, until developers and publishers kind of get their shit together and start making really good, you know, event content or educational content, or just, you know, better early games that explain the full breadth of gameplay that is possible in the game, then yeah, I guess as a community, we need to work together to just kind of champion even some of the smaller, more nuanced aspects of these games, because for the average gamer, it might be the make or break that really excites them, which I am clearly seeing as evidence in my most recent video talking about the most exciting and best underrated MMOs. So I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about the topic. I might have been a little bit cyclical and maybe a little bit rambly, but that's pretty much it. It's out there now, and it's from the heart. Now, hopefully you guys respect that. I'm gonna keep doing list videos and trying to champion underrated games, hidden gem games, you know, all this stuff, overlooked MMOs, absolutely. I'll be doing that, and we'll do some game invasions, and we'll play some, and I think we're gonna have a lot of fun. But I want to ask the community, which MMOs do you think are underrated, for what specific reasons? I know a lot of you guys are gonna be like, Star Wars, baby, you know, Warhammer, Return to Reckoning, City of Heroes, dude, you know, private server. Yeah, I know, there's gonna be a lot of those, and I can't wait to read them, and hopefully some people jump into those games with us and play them. But yeah, I just wanted to ask, what are the underrated MMOs? Let me know in the comments below. But yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say, and if you have any solutions of things that I can do, like maybe I can create events, not just list videos, maybe, you know, we could do these game invasions, or maybe we can, I don't know, is there some other thing that we can do to promote these games and talk about them and get people into this hobby? I want to know your thoughts and feelings on that too. But that's pretty much it, guys. I should end the video, so I'm just gonna leave with this. Thanks for hanging out, liking, subscribing, I guess, but mostly keeping the hype alive. Much love. I'll see you again next time.